Okay, so welcome again to our capacity building workshop today on financing models for energy performance contracting. And the tool we will present is a stepping tool. I would like to introduce shortly myself. So I'm Peter Schilken. I work for Energy City, and Energy City is part of the Efficient Buildings Consortium, a project which is all running since 2017, and I'm involved also from the very beginning. So I'm quite familiar with the team and the modular projects we have followed over the past 4 years. And now it's time to promote and to replicate the results all over the Mediterranean zone. And I'm really happy that we have today not only participants from the EU member states, which are on the border of the Med Sea, but also from the South Shore, because our idea is also to try to transpose or to transfer the knowledge from the north to the south. So, and there we are already within the objectives of the capacity building workshops. That's really to transfer and to replicate successfully implemented tools by the modular projects which have been funded through the Interreg Med program. And I'm happy today to be with the Stepping, because Stepping tool on energy performance contracting is one of the tools we have selected in a long process. So it's definitely a good tool. Warmly encourage all participants to profit and to make use of this unique opportunity to exchange with your peers who have developed the tool and who are very well experienced. Now they know the barriers, the strengths and the forces of the tool. So please make use widely of this and get first-handed info and support. And now I will hand over to Silvio, who is our host of today.
Yeah, thank you very much, Peter, for this introduction. So my name is Silvio De Nigris. I work for the Piemonte region, a governmental authority in Italy. And I was the project manager of Stepping, and it's the region we managed the project. Stepping is a project that finished recently with some success, I would say. And now we are in a phase of replicating the project. We are managing Stepping Plus, which is another project with some of the former partners and some new partners on board. The main aim of this new project is to work on the transferring of the results and the tool developed in Stepping project. And this is a technical workshop, transnational technical workshop that we organized with a horizontal project with the aim of enlarging and boosting the transferring part of the results. So the concept of the workshop is meant to present briefly the guide that we developed in Stepping project, and it will be me presenting this, which is one of the main output of the project. Then I will give the floor to two cases, pilot cases, one in France, and it will be Laurent Chanzot presenting the implementation of APC in the region. And then it will be the turn of Lisa Sentimenti presenting again the implementation of APC in Modena region. This will be the first part of the workshop. You will have the opportunity to Q&A the speakers after these first 3 rounds of presentation. And then we will have, I would say, a larger presentation or interactive exercise with, that will be performed by Stefano Dotta from Environment Park, which who developed the simulation financial tool for APC. So I asked him to present the tool and also to make some concrete exercise with you. So in this way, I think it will be much easier to understand how to use the tool and and understand the added value that it can bring while we set up an MPC investment plan. In general, I give as understood the APC concept in general, but maybe the speakers that will follow me will provide few inputs. But if you are not that familiar with the APC concept, maybe you can raise some question afterwards. So thanks again for being here, and I will start my presentation. Sharing the screen okay, so I'm presenting this APC guideline that we developed in Stepping. This was one of the main output of the project, and the aim was to put in this guide the lessons learned and the steps that we followed in the project implementation. The guide, as you will see, is divided in two parts. The first one is analyzing and assessing the MED framework, comparing to the general framework of Europe, and highlighting what are the pros and cons of the Mediterranean area in comparison with the other part of Europe. In the perspective of the implementation of the energy performance contract. And of course, most of the features have been analyzed, starting from climate and geographic context to the building context and so on. And as you can see, I would say from this short table and the one that will follow, there are some plus and minus, which means that from some circumstance, the APC implementation is more complicated in the Mediterranean area, and from other points of view, we can have some strength that we should pay attention to. What we learned from the implementation of Stepping is that we cannot have one single APC scheme to be implemented, but we might have different approaches according to the regional context we are working in. So I would say that at the end, each of the project managers should really understand what is feasible in their context and what is not, and how to approach, given the APC concept, the implementation of this in its own regional peculiarities. And all the aspects that are listed here should be taken into consideration, I would say, from the climate conditions to the building context, but also from economic point of view, we should understand how mature is the market of the ESCO in a region, how local authorities are familiar with the procedures, for example, for PPP or for other procedures that maybe are not that standard, I would say. So this is the first part of the guide. I don't want to enter into detail into all aspects, which are not really useful in this workshop. The second aspect is the second part of the guide is more, I would say, a step-by-step procedure that is presented. So it's a kind of, let's say, checklist or step-by-step guide that can, yes, guide you in the APC journey, and helps the project manager to reflect to several aspects that must be taken into consideration. We divided the guide into 3 phases, as you can see here: preliminary assessment, investment plan preparation, intended development and realization. For each phase, we have different steps, and from each steps, we have different actions that are listed in the guide that must be taken into consideration. And then at the step level, we also have some takeaway from Stepping, and that can be seen as tips, I would say. I just want to provide an example, for example, for step 1, how to select a public authority, how the guide is structured. So, for example, we have several actions, as I said. Preliminary estimation of the public building stock, energy saving potentialities, assessment of the public authorities and council political engagement. So for each step, there are actions that guides you through, as I said, the EPC journey. In this way, I think the guide is important because it helps you to think about each part that can be in a way a constraint or a bottleneck, and maybe helps you in preventing this at a future stage. And these are the first few actions. Then we have also other actions, which are also the evaluation of the skills and capacity of the public authorities, and a first and rough assessment of the local market of the ESCO, and then also some tips about how to sign an agreement between public authorities. All these aspects, some of them of these aspects might be read as something obvious, but as we say, the devil is in the details, and sometimes the project have some failures that we experienced also because of minor aspects. I would say. So, for example, I can present you some failures where we can learn out something. For example, in Piemonte, we worked on several aggregations in our region. Some of them were successful, but some of them failed in an earlier or later stage due to different reasons. For example, we had an aggregation where we had 4 municipalities, 9 buildings, an overall investment of €500,000. And then we couldn't go on with this aggregation because of some, let's say, administrative issues that we faced along the implementation. In another aggregation, we had less municipalities, 6 buildings, €500,000 of investment. And here we went on with a tender procedure that has been launched, but we haven't received any bid. So at the end, this is, again, a failure in another way. And for the first case, as I said, it was more administrative constraints and political issues. For example, the bundling in general, it was not large enough to have a good pipeline of investment on the market. And when we received the resignation of a municipality that wanted to drop out from the bundling due mainly for political reasons, the overall aggregation of demand was not that interesting anymore. And in the second case, the main problem was related to the contracting authority that has been selected, that was not really in the project and understood everything correctly, and some act of the contracting authority led to the failure of the tender procedure. This is in my perspective, of course. And this is to say that each step of the EPC journey must be really taken into account, because in each steps you might face some bottlenecks or issues that might hinder the overall success of the project. So here it is this MED EPC guidelines, which you can download directly from the Stepping and Stepping Plus websites, and the guide is available in different languages, as you can see from this screenshot. So I thank you very much for this for your attention so far. And I would like to ask Laurent Chenousseau to go a little bit deeper in detail about the implementation of the EPC. And we will see now the case they implemented in France. That is a bit different from the cases that will be presented by Lisa afterwards. This to stress the fact that at the end, we have different options available, and we should think about what is best for our own peculiarity. So, Laurent, the floor is yours.
So thank you, Silvio. So I'm Laurent Chenousseau from Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes Energy Environnement, which is the regional energy agency in South France. Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes is a quite big region with more than 8 million inhabitants and more than 4,000 municipalities. So you can see it's a quite big region. And we are assisting, supporting all the local authorities on territories in energy and environmental transition. About EPC in France, the context is quite special because including investment from ESCO is only possible through PPP, public-private partnership. And this kind of public procurement is very complicated and must be justified, and also is available only for projects higher than 2 million euros. So for small projects, PPP are not possible. And so for many projects, we can't do any third-party financing. Another thing, there is a new regulation in France since 1 year that make mandatory the energy renovation of tertiary building higher than 1,000 square meter. And there are very high ambitious objectives since 2030, 2040, and 2050. And so all the building owner, tertiary building owner, and especially the municipalities, must do some big, deep renovations, and not only small actions. Another thing is that in France, the municipalities has quite a good investment capacity, and they have an access to long-term loans, 30 years, and low interest rates. And so it's quite easy for them to invest or to find the money to invest. On the other side, neither ESCOs nor banks are really interested to invest in small projects, and also in projects with long payback time. And when you have deep renovation, the payback time is always very long. So what about the interest of EPC in this context? The interest of EPC for us is first to secure the budget and the savings. Because when you have an EPC, you have a guarantee of a savings, and so you know that you will have this saving in the future, year by year, and you can build your financial plan very securely. On the other side, there is another interest of EPC that is the quality of the works, because when you have an EPC, you have a contract, you have a guarantee, and the work is better done. So EPC is really a synonym of quality of the work. About EPC in Rhône-Alpes, just to show you, we are the region where there are the most EPCs in France. More than 80 EPCs for public buildings have been listed. And you can see three big types of EPC. The first one is EPC services. It's only services with only small investment, and the savings are in average 17%. The second type of EPC is EPCs on heating systems. Then you have more investment, You can see we have 300 buildings and 29 million euros investment, and the savings are higher. Average is 30%. And the third category is deep renovation EPCs. For this, you can have better savings. The average savings are quite 50%, and the investment is very high in this category. So you can see that there is not only one type of EPC, but different types. About the stepping pilot, so we set up a contract with a group of municipalities, a memorandum of understanding to work with all these municipalities. First, we selected 12 buildings, but as Silvio says in the guideline, so all buildings are not adapted to EPCs. And then at the end, we selected 5 schools to work on, because municipalities have to renovate them, and these schools have a very good energy saving potential. As you can see, the schools have different size. Some of them are very big ones, 3,000 square meter, but some of them are smaller, and some of them are very old, but some of them are quite new. We set up also a steering committee with all the municipalities to share with them the financial approach, the subsidies and so on, the local market discussions. What about the local market? What about the companies? What about the business on this territory? And we also discuss with them about the best way to pull the projects. You will see later that we finally decided to work with a public ESCO and not to have a common tender. Then we made some detailed audits, and we established some investment plan for the 5 schools with 3 scenarios. The first one was only work on systems, and the last one deep renovation. At the end, we had an investment plan of more than 2 million euros, half of it on systems and half of it on insulation. The savings guarantee was around 45%. But as you can see, with comparison with investment and savings, the payback time is not very good. But it's not a problem, because the municipalities have to renovate their schools, and the payback time was not very important for them. About the financial approach, we worked on one thing very important. At the beginning, we compared the project with a situation where the municipalities was doing nothing on the school, but it's not possible. There is always something to do on the school, and then we decided to take as a reference situation the necessary investment within the upcoming years, because these equipments have to be changed anyway. And then we established the comparison not with the actual situation, but with a reference situation, including these investments. One thing I wanted to focus with you is about the market and the interest of enterprises, and especially the interest of SMEs. If you work on EPC Light only on services, if this is the first line, you can see that the energy represents more than around 40% of the contract, and the investment is quite low, 800,000 euros. This is always the case, I think, with EPCs you can find in Italy, for example, and in many countries. If you decide to have a global refurbishment, you can see that the investment is higher, yes, and you can see also that the part of energy and operation and maintenance is less than 20%. And then if you decided to have this global renovation, global refurbishment, then the energy supply is not so important, and you can decide not to include it in the contract. And this is very important because if you don't include fuel in the contract and in the tender, then you will let a chance to the small SMEs to give an offer. And so you can remark also that the market is not the same. If you work only on systems, you will work with ESCOs. If you work on global refurbishment, then you will face to a group of companies and not only ESCOs. About the lessons learned, so at the end of a project, we can say that we have to pool the EPCs in small municipalities to reach a minimum size for the market. The investment must be compared with a reference situation, including necessary investments. If you can not include energy supply, then you will attract more local SMEs. And at the end, it was very complicated to have an EPC tender pooling different municipalities. It was very political, complicated, with political complication and so on. And finally, we decided to hire a local public ESCO to manage the projects of the municipalities. And so we decided not to pool all the projects through one tender, but to pool the project through one common tool that is named a public ESCO. And this public ESCO allowed us to good standardization and better efficiency on one side for building owners, but also for the market, because all the tender of this public ESCO are always the same. And it's very good in standardization, and I think it's a good way. So you can see it's very different than the EPCs with third-party financing that you can find in Italy. And that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laurent. Thanks for this presentation. I would say we directly jump to another case studies. So I would ask Lisa to take the floor and present, and then maybe we can open some Q&As if the participant may feel the need of.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thanks for having me. I'm going to present now what the stepping project in terms of EPC process and achieve results has meant to us. ICE is the Energy and Sustainable Development Agency based in Modena, Italy. And in the end of my presentation, I will also report about our experience in terms of EPC schemes further also to the stepping project. First of all, within the stepping project, 7 municipalities especially benefited from the stepping process and project, getting especially the needed technical assistance from IS, which definitely led to the EPC tender publication and awarding. Those group of municipality were eager to implement a refurbishment program on a wide number of their buildings, accounting for more than 200 overall. However, of course, not all buildings were in the same conditions and also needs from an energy point of view. And therefore, we made a preliminary assessment. We carry out a sort of preliminary energy screening over the whole building stock, based on a first assessment of their historical energy consumption, either thermal or electric ones, of course. And we finally got a picture highlighting that especially around 60 of those buildings really and truly needed energy retrofit interventions. The next steps consisted in carrying out deeper analysis in the form of proper energy audits, and those provided information, crucial information on several important aspects, such as, for example, the cost-effective analysis of the energy retrofit measures to be implemented. The audits provided also a first estimation over unforeseen, I would say, side events and costs related to directly to the implementation of those energy conservation measures. The audits allowed to identify and to set the payback period for the investment, and they definitely let us to identify a realistic and concrete energy efficiency goal. The third phase corresponded indeed to the development, as just highlighted by Silvio and by Laurent as well, in our EPC process and procedures. The investment plan represented the core of our process, because it definitely allowed to include and to sum up crucial elements and aspects over the analysis carried out in the former phases. So, for example, our stepping EPC investment plan included the energy efficiency investment amount identified through the energy audits and needed for implementing those energy retrofit measure. It allowed to identify the percentage of actual and achievable energy saving. We defined into the investment plan the baseline in terms of energy consumption and costs. It is rather important, as already stressed also by Laurent and by Silvio, to include into the investment plan strategies and policies related to energy the concerned public authorities already has. For example, many of our local authorities engage into EPC processes already have normally a sustainable action plan, sustainable energy action plan, and now the sustainable energy and climate action plan. So they do have a political agenda, and it should be included into also the EPC scheme. The investment plan defined also the contract length. And last but not least, it should stress and highlight if co-financing either by the public authority concerned or by further incentive grants available at national or regional level can be included into the investment plan, and therefore could be covered in a way not only by the ESCO, the awarded ESCO. And why we, for us at least, it is so important, the inclusion of incentive and grants. because this is one of the, I believe, most important achievement of our experienced EPCs. In this way, the investment amount is not entirely, as I said, covered by the awarded ESCO, but it is in a way supported by further public financial resources, letting the ESCO to shorten the payback time and therefore to shorten definitely the contract duration. In the end, above all, this allows the public authority to fully experience and benefit from also cost savings in a reduced period of time. The investment plan is, of course, of strategic importance because it's the tool assessing the financial feasibility of the proposed retrofit program and led to have a preliminary picture and response on the potential interest also of the market, of the ESCO market especially. And in our case, in our experience, stepping experience, the stepping investment plan included the energy performance, of course, and this is stressed already by Laurent, a form of guarantee over the achievable energy saving, but it also included, differently from the French experience, the fuel supply, the building and system management, the operation and maintenance, further related service, energy services. And in our investment plan, there was an important obligation over the awarded ESCO to implement the energy retrofit measures within the first contractual year, of course, in order to reach as soon as possible the expected energy savings and, of course, related costs. Our EPC tender was finally delivered as an energy service contract, and of course in line and according with the public procurement laws. The process, it is important, I think, to share this information as well. The process had a duration of nearly one year time, and this is, I think, quite good, especially if we think about the Italian landscape of tenders, because it is quite complex indeed. We must stress this point, I think. And our tender was finally awarded according to the principle of the so-called most advantageous economic offer. Therefore, the economic aspect covered an important part of the assessment elements, but it was not the only one, because as already stressed also by Laurent, the EPC scheme, the EPC contract led to include also quality guarantees, quality aspects that indeed were included also in our stepping tender pilot cases. In our case, a specific score was granted also in relation to the quality of the intervention. The energy saving meant also as deep retrofit interventions and not only light ones, I would say. Quality of the works development, and in our case also management of further related services. In the end, we were really satisfied about the results achieved by our stepping EPC tender, because we, in the end, retrofit 63 buildings belonging to 7 municipalities. Among them, 18 were deeply retrofit with an investment of over 6 million euro. The contract duration varied from 9 to 15 years according to the contract signed by each of the concerned municipalities. As already said, operation and maintenance was included, and a number of energy retrofit measures were implemented. they ranged from replacement of old system with new ones, especially heat generators was the common case, but also a number of deep insulation interventions were in place and were implemented. Overall, the amount of the tender was 9 million euro, and it was also, I believe, successfully awarded thanks to, again, the mix of national and regional grants and incentives that were included in the investment plans in order to support investment of the awarded ESCO itself. Just in order to share a real concrete example of what an EPC scheme and tender can lead to, I've reported here the example of a school building retrofitted thanks to the EPC stepping project. Here a number of insulations, but also relamping, but also installation of a PV system on the building roof were installed, and all those measures, along with all the other 62 buildings, led to a relevant energy saving. It was near to and close to 30%, and above all, it allowed to reach an important goal of those financial tools, that is the carbon emission reduction in the figure of over 100 tons of CO2 per year avoided in our case. So basically, I'm concluding, Silvio. It is 30 seconds missing, but I'd like also to stress that I believe the main goal of such tool represented by EPC schemes, especially for public authorities, is really to definitely lead by example towards energy transition processes. We strongly believe in these tools, as already stressed by Silvio. Failures, of course, have been experienced also by our side on the field, but I'd like also to share that in the last 20 years, we assisted in developing more than 70 EPC tenders, triggering more than 250 million euros investments by private ESCO stakeholders for public buildings, and therefore involving and engaging private capitals, I would say. In terms of lesson learned through the stepping experience, but also further to the stepping experience, as already partly stressed by Silvio and Laurent, I would say that EPC can be a rather effective solution for deep renovation of public buildings, but of course, there is no standard scheme that can be simply replicated from a context to another. So we need to tailor the EPC scheme according to the conditions, legislative, climate, and so on, of the region concerned. Project development assistance, so technical assistance and EPC facilitators, I believe are crucial ingredients for a successful EPC scheme, for smoother process, and above all, a fair balance among private and public interests. Whenever possible, especially in our Italian landscape, but as said by Laurent, for the French situation, for example, the framework is rather different. But in our case, the tip is that we should include, whenever possible, incentive and grants in the investment plans. And last but not least, especially in relation to public authorities, again, we should focus not only on the financial benefits triggered by the EPC schemes, but also on the real impacts but also on the carbon emission reductions, on energy transition processes in the concerned territories, or as initiative, as seen as initiative for further supporting the creation of new jobs and the involvement, as stressed by Laurent, of local SMEs in those processes. So thanks. Sorry for being maybe a bit longer than expected, but this is all by my side. I'm of course available for any question. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Lisa, for this very detailed presentation. So now I would ask if we have any questions for the speaker for the first presentations from the participants. I would encourage to write in the chat or just raise hand and ask for short comments or questions directly by voice.
I have one question for Lisa.
Yes.
I'm Anna from the province of Girona. The question that I have is, when you tender the EPC contract with the structural funds, did you include the structural funds in this tendering, or you did two separate tenderings, one to award the investment with the structural funds and another one to launch the EPC contracts?
No, it is normally included so that the ESCO is prepared to count also on this supporting amount coming from those grants, structural funds, or other kind of incentives. But it is indeed.
But how do you assure the availability of these funds in the tender?
Well, then we normally act as the EPC facilitator. So normally it is, for example, in charge of our energy agency to follow up with the grant delivery or the grant process to be managed with the national authority. And so we normally, on behalf of the municipality or the concerned public authority, we normally follow and manage those and ensure that those grants are definitely delivered. But yeah, normally there are no surprises, so it is a quite ordinary process and procedure, I would say. But yeah, I mean, our technical assistance goes on even after the awarding of the tender, I would say, in this framework.
So if I got it right, Lisa, you applied for this ERDF funds on behalf of the bundling, and then when you are assured this money comes to the bundling, you tender for the EPC.
Yeah.
This is more or less, simplified way to say. Okay.
Yeah, that is.
Are you satisfied, Anna, with the reply?
Yeah, I'm very satisfied. we had one problem with the management authority of the Spanish government that said that if the grant of the structural fund was bigger than €1 million, then if you make an investment that generates energy saving or saving in any way, you must discount this money from the grant that you get from the managing authority, the Catalan government or the Spanish government. So we also have done this, but we are afraid that maybe in the future or in the next future, someone from the European Commission arrives and say, okay, you've done this investment with the structural funds that has generated savings in your in our case, in our building, so you have to discount the saving from the grant. That's it.
It's the problems of procedures or tricky procedure is always an issue, and I hope that for the next programming period it will be easier. I would say this operation of blending funds. We have raised hand from Rehman Jamal. I'm sorry if I don't pronounce correctly the name, but the floor is yours. Thanks.
Yes, I am Reham Jamal from Greater Irbid Municipality in Jordan. in the north of Jordan. And actually, we have already implementing similar project for Greater Irbid municipality, which consists of 7 floors. First of all, thank you for your presentation. My question, did you take in consideration the thermal isolation and at the end of implementing energy efficiency actions, did you implemented PV panel in order to reach zero energy for the pilot building?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. Maybe I can just start answering. In the APC that we implemented in Piemonte, thermal isolation was one of the key measures. Maybe we have climate conditions which are lead us to pay a lot of attention on the winter season, as we have quite a number of degrees. So indeed, thermal insulation was implemented. Is mainly with external walls or ceilings. For sure, this was a measure included in most of the cases. And then for PV, we had some cases where we installed PV, mostly coupled with heat pumps, in order to have heating system completely renewable, and lead this building towards nearly zero energy building as well. But Laurent and Lisa, can you just share some inputs from your side?
In France, just yes, we have for this time in Rhône-Alpes, we have not so much problem with insulation, with sun and overheating. So, but about PV panel, we have in many cases we have some PV panels because it brings some short payback time investment in the project, and it's good for the investment plan.
Lisa, do you want
Yes,
to comment?
yeah, sorry for maybe I will repeat just what's said by my colleagues, but basically we start from energy efficiency measures, of course, in order to upgrade the energy efficiency of the buildings, but then for also reason directly related to the sustainability, financial sustainability of the investment plans, we encourage to include also renewables systems. I've reported in my presentation the case of the school building where on the roof the PV system was also installed. So whenever possible, yeah, ESCO do normally include in their list of measures to be implemented also some specific renewable systems. So, and we encourage definitely these offers and these proposals.
Thanks a lot.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, welcome. Thanks for asking. Question to Silvia in the chat. The successful stepping part was good in Romania for the relatively poor or poor in Rhône-Alpes and in Piemonte. Can you think it's a possible explanation? Well, I would not say that it was not successful in Piemonte and in Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes. I only presented two cases where I highlighted some failure to make sure that it was clear that in the guide we built upon success, but also on failures. But we had also other two tenders launched during the project timeframe, and those two tenders were very successful. We had more than 2 million euros investment in the renovation of about 15 buildings in an aggregation, and those buildings have been deeply renovated with thermal insulation of the envelope and the integration of renewables. And then also we had another tender was more specific. It was on a campus of a national research institute where 8 buildings have been will be renovated because the works are not over yet, with some again energy efficiency measure and quite a good number of PV plants installed in order to reduce also electric consumption of this site. So I would say for us, stepping project implementation in Piemonte was quite a kind of success, even though we had some failures or some bottlenecks when we worked with some municipalities. I reported them because I wanted to highlight in my presentation that there are quite a number of issues that must be taken into account. Mainly, when you work in this approach of the bundling, I mean, you have a lot of municipalities to deal with. So you know, several people, several way of thinking, and you should also take into consideration different point of view. Well, Laurent, maybe if you want to reply to this, then we move on, I would say.
Just it was the stepping project was for us was an occasion to test, to experiment a pooling of a project. So we decided just to test it on 5 municipalities because it was already complicated to do that. And that's why it was a quite small EPC. But you have seen that on the other part of the region, we have many EPCs. So it was just because in the stepping project, we decided only to work on five municipalities and 5 buildings.
Okay.
Silvio, excuse me, can I also ask a small question? And also, I would like to thank you both for keeping an eye on the failures, because it's very hard to get people telling us what did not went well. So that's good that you show up with this. But I'm also interested in knowing how many offers you received when you have done the tendering. Is there a bigger market, or is it very small that you only get 1 or 2 replies on your call for tender, and in which range were they varying? If you can answer both on this question. So
okay, a very short reply from Lisa, from Laurent, and then I will.
Yes, Silvio. If I may add also to the question of over the successes and failures, I must say that within the stepping experience, we at first try to engage a group of municipalities, another union, we call it Unione in Italy. But at the beginning, they seemed very motivated, and they joined. But then, due to political change in the administration, they changed their mind. And so they definitely drop out the project, and we have to present to convince another group of municipalities to be engaged into this project and process. And I should say that I think in Italy we are lucky because of the existence of these public authorities already grouping and aggregating municipalities and local authorities, such as the unions, and therefore that was our main target, because the problem and the challenge was to try to balance and to find a good balance between the need for renovation, for energy retrofit of buildings, of public buildings, but also the need from the market to have a minimum threshold and size for the investments as shared today. For example, Silvio mentioned that for very small amount of investments and very small projects, ESCO market, at least in our regions, is not interested at all. And so bids are not presented at all to those projects. But then in our case, in order to reply and to answer to Peter's answer, for the Unione Forlivese, we engage in the second part of our stepping project. We definitely got 3 offers, 3 bids, and we were quite satisfied about these offers, because technically and economically they were really interesting. Of course, the ESCO market is not as big as in Germany, I'm sure, but in our case, the final awarded ESCO presented really good solutions, and very balanced, and meeting above all the request and needs, the expectation of the public authority. So yeah, just in order to share that we got 3 offers, but it was not an easy process from the beginning. It was quite hard, and definitely we were lucky because we met those expectations, those motivated public authority, and above all, we delivered, I think, an investment plan that was attractive and appealing for the market as well. So yeah.
It definitely good. And Laurent, what about how many offers in general do you do this tender receive?
In France, the situation is this one. For big municipalities or big building owner, it's quite simple to set up some EPCs and to renovate some buildings. So we have no real problem with this. But as I said, we have many municipalities, more than 4,000, and all these municipalities are too small, and they have only 1 or 2 buildings. And the problem for us is to find a way to help them to renovate their buildings, and also to have to secure the energy efficiency, because we don't only want to renovate the building, but to have an efficient renovation. And so EPC is for us the best way to do that. And definitely we think that this way of public ESCO to manage many projects of many municipalities, also the small ones, is a good way to develop. And now we can also finance it through a PDA project as like Elena or H2020 project. And I think it's yes, for the moment in France we are developing such model of public ESCOs.
Okay, and maybe also I can reply to the question. Definitely, the number of bids is not very high in numbers when we based on our experience. So we only received a couple, or in some case also 1 bid. I would say we have different reasons behind this. One for sure is the level of maturity of the market, of the ESCO, but also of the challenging of the level of the challenge of the tender. Since we try to keep an eye on the public interest and try to fix the threshold quite high. So it's not a low-hanging fruit tender, let's say, and so only solid companies with some good financial stability can apply. And yes, so the market is not very big, but it's always a combination of factors, and for sure how big is the tender is one of the key points. I think if we were able to put on the market some very large tender, now the market is quite ready, but a challenge in stepping project for us was to try to downsize a little bit investment. This because the transaction costs to create a bundling, to keep the municipality together for quite a long time. Elisa spoke about 1 year of preparation, which is very good. It's very good because you have to implement energy audit. You have to put around the table a lot of people, decide together what to do, launch the tender. So it's a good performance, I would say. But you have to keep this municipality together for quite a long time. So transaction costs are very high. So we were thinking about reducing a little bit the size of the investment, but okay, maybe we should not go that far in that direction, otherwise we don't receive bids. But definitely the level of the number of bids are not very high. We have another question from Antonio Zonta, which I personally know, and I welcome him very well.
Hi, Silvio. Can you hear me?
We should be very short for
yes,
the question and
we
the
are.
answer.
No, first of all, in my previous question, I did not want to diminish your work because I know very well what you do, what you did, and what you will do. So you were also of, in some way, of inspiration also for my personal professional activity. But what I think is that there's probably a big difference between the experience that Lisa has showed and the experience of Piemonte region, and probably this experience is very similar to that of Laurent. In the case of Lisa, as she also mentioned in a later reply, she could act on an already based union of local authorities, although there were some problems, as you furtherly explained, because some of them decided to quit the union, others joined, and so on. But all of them recognized some kind of institution that gave them a sort of reliability in the result that could have been promoted. On the contrary, if you are trying to gather municipalities just for the specific purpose, it could be more difficult. I am experiencing something similar now. I am, you probably know, I'm not directly involved in the local government for which I was working previously, but I'm supporting an action of bundling, and I experience that it is very, very difficult to put small municipalities together, because some of them seem to be willing to participate, but there is a political change and one decided to resign. So you cannot rely on a fixed company, on a fixed critical mass. And this is probably the reason for
sure the role of territorial coordinator, which could be union of municipalities or established agencies, is a key point that for sure we have to take into account. Thank you for your remarks, Antonio. And okay, I would suggest to go on with the program, otherwise we run out of time. And I would ask Stefano Dotta to take the floor and present the EPC simulation tool. You said EPC is a financial tool, a mechanism that brings put a light on the impact on what we need to achieve, which is energy savings, CO2 emission reduction, and so on. But still, the financial part of the game is tricky. And so what we did is to develop this tool, which was supposed to forecast what could be the perspective of UNESCO when they have to assess a tender, I would say, that has been launched. So it is a way to simulate The way the ESCO is taken into account is, Stefano, are you with us?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Silvio, for your introduction. I'd like to share my screen. Okay, so I have a short presentation, and then I would like to show the tool, and with a very simple exercise that I will do together with you. And so in this short presentation, of course, I would like to present this tool that is as said before, is an output of a step project together with other other output, of course. But in the stepping project, we analyze all the process that is necessary to carry out in order to make a sort of assistance to the public authority in order to implement energy performance contract with the aim to make a refurbishment of the buildings. And this process is quite long and complex, as I said before in the other presentation. And there are different steps that we have to take into account. In the first part of this process, we have to select buildings and realize energy audit. But before to have all the information and needs to define to elaborate the tender scheme and the contract specification, and then launch the tender, it's necessary to define the minimum condition of the energy performance contract that we want to ask to the market. So for do that, it's necessary to realize a sort of financial assessment and define the scenario that will be put on the tender document. And this scenario is really crucial part of this process, because we have to need a sort of balance between the public and private interest in order to make the tender attractive for the ESCO, but in the same time we have to sell, let me say, the public interest and have an energy performance contract that is interest for both the side of the contract. And so we started with the idea that this step is really crucial and complex, and our idea is to make this part more easy. And for do that, we developed a specific tool that aim to define, so I would say before, the best scenario that we will put on the tender contract. This scenario, depending by a set of variables that could be the energy, that are the energy saving, economic saving, investment, and duration of the contract. And with this tool, we can define in a specific way the number of the energy saving that we ask to the ESCO, the economic saving expected by the public authority, the amount of the investment that the ESCO have to invest, this value of amount of money that have to invest in order to realize the energy efficiency measure. And also we have to define the duration of the contract. And for define this different minimum condition of the energy performance contract, we have to carry out economic and financial analysis. And this economic and financial analysis will be useful to define economic indicator, like, for example, internal rate of return, or net present value, or debt service coverage ratio, or the ratio between the net present value and investment, or of course other economic indicator could help to define the best, the most suitable scenario. But in order to define this indicator, we have to consider other several variables that are economic variables, but also are mainly economic variables, of course, but are also energetic variables, let me say. And so, for example, the energy saving that we expect by the contract, but also the energy carrier cost, the cost of the implementation of the energy efficiency measure, or the contract management cost, the design cost, in order to define the energy efficiency measure, the operation and maintenance cost, the cost for the measurement and verification of the performance. That is another crucial point of an energy performance contract, because the performance contract is based on the verification of energy performance. So this is a really important phase during the contract, and this is represent a cost, of course. Then we have to consider that the ESCO probably have to ask to the bank a loan. So we have to consider also interest rate, inflation rate, and other economic variables. So this analysis is quite complex. And for do this more easy, we have two different solutions. First solution is to contract a wizard with a crystal ball, of course. But another solution that we propose to you is use this EPC economic tool. Of course, this is a joke, no? Of course, but our idea is that it is so complex, this phase, that probably this tool could be useful for you. And okay. And so at this time, at this moment, the EPC simulation tool is an Excel file. We in Stepbystep Plus, the idea is to improve this tool, and in order to have a sort of software, but we have to work on this during the Stepbystep Plus project. But at this time, the EPC simulation tool is an Excel file, of course. And the main object, as I have said before, of the EPC simulation tool is to find different investment scenarios to balance public and private interests. And this tool is able to calculate the economic parameters that I've mentioned before, and to define the different variable that we have to put in the contract in order to make the investment attractive. So in order to use this tool, it's necessary to have a good knowledge of the buildings that we want to put on the contract. And we have also to carry out the energy audit. So we have to know the result of the energy audit. We know which kind of energy measure we can implement on this building, and the target of energy saving that is possible to achieve in this kind of buildings. So now I would like to jump to the tool. Okay, this is the tool. I said before, is an Excel file with the different worksheet, and we have 5 different worksheets in this file, And in 5 of these sheets, it's possible to input data that, of course, we some of them we have to know this data according to the result of the energy audit, and other are a variable that we can suppose in order to define the most suitable scenario that we will use in the tender phase. So in this first Excel sheet is called building baseline. We have to input that data about the building that we can put in the contract. In this case, I have pre-filled some of the cell of this sheet. So we have to fill only the white cell because the file is locked, and it's possible to fill only the white cell. The other cell is not possible to write or to modify the formulas or all the information that are in the file. So, for example, in this cell, it's possible to input the name of the public authority that we consider. In this example, I can write the name of the city where I live, Torino. Okay. Then hypothetical name of the buildings, for example, town hall. The surface of these buildings, for example, 100.5 square meter. Then the cubic meter, about the heated volume of the buildings, for example, 5,000 of cubic meter, and the use of these buildings. In this case, are office. Then in the second part of this sheet, it's possible to input the energy baseline of these specific buildings, choosing the energy carrier that are used in order to heat the building. In this example, for this building, for example, we suppose that they use wood biomass, and the consumption of this biomass is 28 tons for years, and the cost of this energy supply is 1,200 euro. I have already pre-filled the consumption and the energy cost for each year of the other 4 buildings in this example. For example, in this case, I suppose that for this Dante Alighieri school, we use methane gas with a cost of 18,000 euro. And in another case, for example, for the gym of the municipality, we use a district heating, and we have to input the data in a kilowatt hour for years. In this case, 200,000 kilowatt hour for years with a cost of 16,000 euro. And in other case, we use diesel with other amount of consumption and cost, and the tool automatically calculate the total energy heating cost for a year for the 4 buildings, and also calculate the total amount of the total heating annual cost. Then it's possible also to input data about electricity and electric energy consumption. For example, in this case, 15,000 of kilowatt hour of electricity with a cost of 3,000 euro for year. And we can also input the operation and maintenance annual cost that we can suppose in 1,000 euros. So in this way, we at the end we have a total amount of energy heating annual cost, total amount of electricity consumption for year, electricity energy annual cost, and operation and annual cost for year of the bundling buildings. And in the last column, we have the sum of all of these costs and the total baseline cost of this group of buildings. So this is in this worksheet is a sort of input worksheet where we have only to input the baseline cost and energy baseline. Then we can jump to the other worksheet where it's possible to input the energy saving expected for each buildings. So in this case, I have already pre-filled the energy heating saving for the first buildings. For example, 30% of energy gas methane saving, and with this percentage of saving, the energy cost will be reduced in at 14,000 of 40,000 of cubic meter of methane gas. But in other case, we can input the data, and in this case, we can suppose 20% of energy saving. Then the energy consumption is reduced at 160,000 kilowatt hour for year. We can also change the energy carrier. If you want to change supposed to change the energy carrier in some building, it's possible to reduce to zero the energy consumption of, for example, in this case of diesel, if inputting 100%, so the consumption disappear, and we can choose in this the new energy carrier, for example, methane gas, and we can input in this cell the new consumption of methane gas. For example, 20,000. Then also in electric energy saving, it's possible to input the data of about the energy saving expected, for example, 25%. Okay, so in this worksheet at the end of the when all the data are input, it's possible to have the new consumption after the implementation of the energy efficiency measure, supposed thanks to the result of the energy audit. Okay, then
just to make sure you finalize your exercise in 10-15 minutes.
10-15 minutes, of course. Okay, I try to do it. So, and in this input data worksheet, it's possible to input other information that are useful to define the scenario. And for example, the unit price used by the energy service company in order to buy the energy carrier. The energy, for example, we can suppose 0.7 euro for cubic meter for the methane gas, or oh no. Okay. Then it's possible in this part of the sheet input other financial economic parameters. For example, we can suppose the bank interest rate for the loan, for example, 2%, or the ESCO business profit expected by the ESCO, for example, 45%, or the loan duration, we suppose, for example, 10 years. The equity, so the equity is the investment rate covered directly from the ESCO without the intervention of bank, for example, 30%. Or the taxes on profit that depend by are different in each country. In this exercise, we suppose 24%. Okay. So in the last worksheet, it's possible to input other data. For example, if our APC energy performance contract include the energy supplies, it's possible to select yes. If not, if the energy supply is not included in the energy performance contract, we can select no, of course. We can input the value of the investment supposed, and we can suppose, for example, okay, to 150,000 of euro. Then we can suppose also if the ESCO can obtain subsidy for the region or for the national state, it's possible to also input in this cell the amount of this subsidy, the total amount of this subsidy, and if this subsidy is divided in different years, it's possible to input the number of the year, for example, 5 years. Then in this cell is important because in this cell it's possible to input the value of the fee that the owner of the building have to pay to the ESCO in every year of the contract, and we have to input as a percentage on the baseline cost. So if we input 100%, this means that the fee is equal to the baseline cost that we have calculated in the building baseline worksheet. Is the same number of this one. And okay, after the inputting of all the data, the tool can calculate the economic indicator. The economic indicator, as I said before, are net present value, internal rate of return, debt service coverage ratio, and the ratio between net present value and investment. If all the cells are green, this scenario could be considered as suitable for the energy service company. If are red, are not probably is not interested in this scenario for the market. Now we can also reduce this number, the result of the economic indicator, in order to make this contract more profitable for the public authority. For example, we can reduce the fee, the annual fee. For example, 98% of the total cost. All the cells are green, so this scenario could be also interesting for the market. We can reduce again to 97 or 95. For example, now we have the internal rate of return in red, so we have to input. Okay, so this, for example, this is a scenario with a contract for 11 years with a fee that is more with a little reduction respect to the baseline cost. With this kind of investment in this percentage of energy saving, for us is a good scenario. We can save this scenario. Then we can define another scenario. For example, we would like to have more investment, so we can consider EPC contract duration more higher. So we can consider 13 years, and we can ask more investment, for example, is too much, or is this economic indicator is in red, so we have to change something. Okay, now it's green, it's okay, this is a scenario for us, so we can save this, and so on. We can define other scenario and save this different scenario with the main information that are value of investment, value of annual fee, duration of the contract, and the economic indicator, the value of the economic indicator. So this tool, in this tool, it's possible to save 5 different scenarios. And for each scenario, is possible also to take a look of the cash flow, and that is calculated in this final worksheet. And so this is the EPC stepping tool that we have delivered thanks to the stepping project. Okay, and so my presentation is so thank you for the attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Stefano. I put in the chat the link where this tool is available, but you can find it easily in the Stepping Interreg Stepping project website in the deliverables and outputs list. So just
of
in
course, yeah, I can show to you the web page. This is the web page where it's possible to download the tool. It's possible to download the example and the tool without example. Okay.
Okay. And what is important to be said is that this is a support decision tool. Let's say you have different options, different scenarios, and then you can discuss with the policymakers or project managers of different municipalities what is the best solution, because you can play a little bit with the variables, as Stefano said. You can have a longer contract and more investment, or shorter contract, lower investment, or higher savings, lower savings. It depends. It is a trade-off mechanism. If you want to achieve something, maybe you have to give something back to the ESCO, and so on. So this is a support decision tool, I would say. It's a way to take decision based on numbers. Okay, thank you very much for this presentation, Stefano. We have still some minutes for additional questions, remarks. So I would encourage the participants to point out.
Yes, thank you for the explanation, Stefano. If you want to test we would like to use the tool. If we have any doubt, or if we don't know to do something, can we just send you an email, Stefano, or there is another procedure?
So there is, if you want to test this tool, okay, it's possible to download the tool, of course, and then there is also a manual that you can use. And if you have some question, or you can, of course, write an email to me, and then I can.
Maybe you can write your email address, Stefano. If
yeah,
it
yeah,
is
I
not
can.
And this
in the chat.
I can write yeah.
This tool can be used to bundle different buildings, no, as well?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
when you use this tool also for street lighting, or is focused for buildings?
No, it's focused on buildings. At this time, it's focused on building, but is possible, of course, use this tool for street lighting, because the information that you have to input could be useful also for energy performance contract for street lighting. Yes, because you have to input consumption and percentage of energy saving and other economic conditions. So is useful.
You can adapt, let's say,
Yeah.
you can adapt to public lighting, but it is conceived as a tool for buildings, of course. But in a way, you can play a little bit with the tool and input only the data that are consistent with public light.
Because we have some municipalities interested in launching energy efficiency of public buildings and street lighting, because the payback period is so good for street lighting now, and the energy savings as well. So in order to ensure that some enterprise will be interested in this tendering, they want to bundle both and to launch tendering of street lighting and public buildings as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it is possible because you can input electric energy data and thermal data. So you can input all the data in different rows, and then I think that this tool can consider also this kind of energy performance contract.
Mm-hmm. This is very interesting, Anna, but have you experienced already a mix of street light and public building together, or this could be the first time? Yeah.
No, it would be the first time. We have experience in EPC contract in street lighting because, as you know, the Mediterranean villages close to the beach are very large with a lot of second houses and street and a lot of street lighting. So maybe the investment is very high, like 2 million of investment in street lightings. But then the public buildings are few public.
Less attractive. Yeah.
Less attractive, yes. So it's interesting to put them together. And we have some municipality that is very happy with the contract with the ESCO, with the EPC contract. And although it takes a long time, but at the end they are very happy with these kind of contracts. And now they are interested in launching these EPC contracts for public building, but the amount of money of the investment and the payback period is not good. So we have two options, or bundle all the buildings together of different municipalities, and this is very complicated and it takes long. But then another option for the new villages that don't have EPC contracts on street lighting is to put those contracts together, and I think that this is very interesting.
Yeah, I think it is a brilliant idea that we are try to explore in the past, but at the end we didn't implement it. But maybe it is nice if we can have a say about this. I don't know, from Lisa, from Lorano, or also Antonio, I don't know, whoever. Do you have any example of merging or mixing, blending, I don't know, street light and building? And what is your remark at a glance?
For us in France, yes, we have some examples, but not so many, 2 or 3 examples of such mix. The only thing is the ESCOs are not the same that are working on buildings, and on the other side those are working on street lighting. But yes, the principal interest is to reduce the payback time of a global contract and to have a larger investment. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We will try in the coming months, and I will explain to you.
We will support you.
Please share, Anna. Yeah, please share. We also didn't experience merged EPC schemes for street lighting and public.
No, but it is something that I was asked by large ESCOs that we were in contact with. They said, okay, we are not interested in street lighting, but if you bundle street lighting and buildings, then it is something which is in our business, and maybe the good mixture of it. Antonio, do you want to bring an experience about?
I do not have any experience in bundling street lighting and buildings. Although I have experiences in street lighting separately and in buildings. I think that one of the problems is that probably the kind of companies interested in the two different subjects are different companies. So it's probably very difficult if you do not have a very big bundling of municipalities. We proved that it is also difficult to gather a good number of offers. Moreover, if you differentiate the subject, it's probably even more difficult. It's anyway interesting. Yes.
Yeah, it is. I'm sorry, but I agree with you. From technical point of view, it can be a bit tricky because the fee then have to take into consideration different technical aspects, and so it's not easy to arrange. But I think in the Mediterranean context, if you look at southern regions, let's say, this could be really a added value, a good approach. Even though complicated, but
yes, complicated, but that's true, because particularly in the southern regions of the Mediterranean area, the type of energy which is normally more used is electricity. Also for heating, electricity is more used in the southern countries, in the southern regions, than gas or oil. So this could be an advantage since you use the same energy carrier. Yeah, you use the. Could be interesting as a proposal for a project in the next generation of the MED program.
As you see, Peter. Yeah. So if you can just jump in for the final conclusion, you see, we found a new topic for a new project. This is the added value of today.
And also here, I don't know how to say it in English, está de moda, va la moda, climate refugees.
Okay.
So all the, I don't know, it's like everyone talks about climate refugees that practically are schools that are closed during summer, but they can be, you can install air conditioner and to use for elderly people. So that's the idea. So every village wants to refurbish a public building to well.
So to enlarge the use, I don't know, of buildings also for different purposes.
Yeah.
This is interesting also.
During summer that.
Yep. Good.
Otherwise, old people goes to the supermarket and spend
money, or maybe they can go there and play cards.
Maybe.
Which is better.
Okay, so if you allow me, I do some final conclusions.
Yes, please.
Because we are coming closer to the end of the workshop, and I know that some of you have already appointments at 4, so our aim is to be in time. I kindly ask everybody, if possible, to complete our evaluation questionnaire on this workshop, because this is needed for us to improve our work, and I think it's good to have a feedback from the participants about content, about what they have learned, and their future interests. So please take these 5 minutes to complete the questionnaire. I have put the link into the chat room, so you only need to click on it and then start to complete. And then I definitely would love to thank Silvio and his team for this excellent workshop. I'm really impressed. Even I know before that the tool, the stepping tool, is a good one, but taking part in a presentation or in a training session, that was definitely a training session, and learn and see how the tool is running, that's really good. So congrats for this training workshop, for the excellent presentation and illustration. And that's really what I personally was looking for, giving insights into the tool, giving a response on all the questions on the practical side through the examples we had from Modena Agency and from Rhône-Alpes Energy, and also see where the bottlenecks, where the mistakes frequently, mistakes we can avoid in future. And I'm also really glad that we have a new idea coming up. So for bundling public lighting with energy refurbishment of public buildings. So that's an idea to go into, and maybe even for Energy Cities Association of Local Authorities I work for might be interested in following this, and also Helena Papas from the Med Joint Secretariat is listening, so maybe she do some promotion for this idea inside the Joint Secretariat as well. So that's from me. I hope you share my impression, and thanks for being with us for the workshop, and hope to see more of you in the following workshops tomorrow and next week. Thanks and have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thank you to all.
Thanks.
Thanks for hosting
you.
us.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.